Okay, boys and girls, today we're doing Chapter 14, Lesson 5, Shared Attributes of Quadrilaterals. So our learning intention is I am learning about the shared attributes of quadrilaterals so that I can describe and classify them better. So let's take a look at the pages that we have to do. We are going to be doing pages 859, 860, and 861. So let's go ahead and look at page 859. So we're just basically seeing how shapes are related to each other, just like this girl is thinking. These shapes are all related. Just like in a family, you can tell that how people are related. You can tell how shapes are related. So the diagram shows how quadrilaterals are related. What attributes are shared by both rectangles and squares? So let's look at our chart. And I like reading this chart from the bottom up better. I tried reading it from the top down, and then I thought, maybe the bottom up, it'll work better. So let's read it from the bottom up. So down here at the bottom, you have a rectangle, a square, and a rhombus. And you can see the things that they have in common. Rectangles and squares both have 90-degree angles, but a rectangle has two lines that are longer than the other two lines. A square, all of its sides are equal, but then if you look at a rhombus, all of its sides are equal, but its angles are not 90 degrees. Two angles are more than 90 degrees, and two angles are less than 90 degrees. So they're all related, but they have different things about them, just like people in your family. You may be related to them, but you have different attributes about you. Okay, so these three figures here are all parallelograms. And parallelogram just means that the opposite sides are the same length and both pairs of opposite sides are parallel and opposite angles are the same size. So let me grab a marker here. So this angle is the same size as this angle. They're both less than a right angle. This angle here is the same size as this angle. They are both greater than a right angle. Then this side here is the same length as this side, and this side here is the same length as this side, and they're parallel to each other. Okay, so a parallelogram is a shape on its own. Like this is one where this is not a rhombus because all the sides aren't the same length. Okay, so you have a parallelogram, and you also have rectangles, squares, and rhombuses, but rhombuses, squares, and rectangles are also parallelograms, but parallelograms are not necessarily rectangles, squares, or rhombuses. Okay, these four things here are all quadrilaterals. Any four-sided figure with four angles is a quadrilateral. These four things down here are specific kinds of quadrilaterals. Okay, and one other quadrilateral that's not related to anything but quadrilaterals is the trapezoid, because it only has one pair of opposite sides that are parallel. So our question was, what attributes are shared by both rectangles and squares? Well, if you look, you can see what's the same. They have opposite sides that are equal, their opposite angles are equal, and they have 90-degree angles. That is what they have in common. So let's look down here. Rectangles and squares share the following attributes. Opposite sides are the same length. Both pairs of blank sides are parallel. That's opposite sides. And there are four right angles. Okay, let's go on to the next page. A parallelogram has opposite sides that are the same length and both pairs of opposite sides parallel. It also has opposite angles that are the same size. Draw an example of a quadrilateral that is not a parallelogram. Well, if you look at the chart on the previous page, there is only one that is not a parallelogram, and that would be a trapezoid. There are others. You could just do an irregular quadrilateral, but you would have to make sure that you don't have two sets of parallel sides. So it's easier just to draw a trapezoid. So draw the trapezoid. Okay, classify the quadrilateral you drew. Why is it not a parallelogram? Well, okay, I drew a trapezoid, trapezoid, because, now I'm explaining why it is not a parallelogram. It only has one set of parallel lines. There we go. Okay, let's go down here to guided practice. Name one attribute that a square has that a rhombus does not have. So you're going to go back and look at your chart. Tell me one thing that a square has that a rhombus does not have. It does not need to be in a complete sentence because there's not enough room. Pause your video, put your answer, and then come back and see what I put. And then you, if it's not correct, then you can rewrite it. Okay, pause the video. Okay, one attribute that a square has that a rhombus does not have, a square has 4 right angles. Oops. Okay, if you said about the equal sides, they both have all 4 equal sides. So, and make sure you spell angles, not angels. Angles. If you put the EL, then it's angels. It turns the G soft. So ANGLES is angles. Okay, draw an example of a quadrilateral that is not a rhombus. You have quite a few examples. So pause the video, draw one. I'm going to draw, when you come back, I'm going to draw all the possibilities. Okay, go ahead and pause. Okay, I'm going to give you all the possibilities. You only need to have one of them. Okay, so a quadrilateral that is not a rhombus would be a trapezoid. So if you drew a trapezoid, good for you. Okay, a rectangle is not a rhombus. Okay, if you do a parallelogram that has 2 long sides and 2 short sides, it is not a rhombus. Okay, but if you drew a square, that's incorrect. You need to erase it and try again. So trapezoid, rectangle, parallelogram. Those are your only choices. Okay, let's go on to independent practice, and I'll give you your directions. Okay, complete the attributes of a rhombus. You're going to need to use your chart to write in the answers that are missing. Every blank is a point. Now, number 4 says, name 3 other quadrilaterals that have all the attributes of a parallelogram. So you're going to write the names of those 3 quadrilaterals that are parallelograms. So look at the bottom of your chart. Please spell them correctly. This one's worth 3 points. Name another quadrilateral that has all the attributes of a rectangle. Okay, so don't say rectangle because that's not another quadrilateral. So pick the other quadrilateral that has the same attributes as a rectangle, write it on the line. This is worth 1 point. Okay, and then number 6, draw an example of a quadrilateral that is neither a square, a rectangle, nor a rhombus. So it has to be a quadrilateral, can't be a square, can't be a rectangle, can't be a rhombus. Use your chart. That is also worth 1 point. Okay, then classify the quadrilateral you drew. So the one you drew here in number 6, you're going to classify it and explain why it is not a square, a rectangle, or a rhombus. It'll be just like what we did in the guided practice on the second question. Okay, but obviously the answer will be different. So think very carefully about that. Put it in a complete sentence, please. Make sure you use comma because they have the word explain. Explain why. Okay, that's it. There you go. That is the shared attributes of quadrilaterals.